593.
Page 593, lesson 6. Okay, general form. What do A, B, and C represent?
Numbers. Coefficients.
Good. Nothing. No meaning though. Write that down because you guys are likely to forget that. A has to be what? Good. A has to be positive, and there's no fractions allowed. I hope by now that you guys understand the next two different forms. After that, the other thing I'm finding we're struggling to remember is that you always, like in your final answer, you should always still be having X and Y there. So all those highlighted X's and Y's should be there, right? Our equations are a general equation. So we need X and Y there to keep it general. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. Fabulous. Okay, so we're going to go over a couple different ways to graph without a calculator. You should know a lot of this by now. So this first equation they give us, so it's like A, B, and C. What form is that first equation in? No.
Like the one that's like the regular.
It's literally written on the page in front of you.
Whatever it's called, but it's not the regular.
Yeah, the slope-intercept form. Because it's literally slope and your intercept. It's like the most helpful description they could choose. So when we're graphing slope-intercept form, it's fairly easy. Start at your intercept. So I'm going to start at +4 on my graph. Then I'm going to use my slope. So remember, your slope means a couple things. So 2, think of it always as 2 over 1. So I then could go up 2 and to the right 1, or down 2 and to the left 1. Always plot, I suggest at least 3 points, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to make you guys actually have a ruler to make sure your line's perfectly straight. But if you plot 3 points, I can check that your 3 points are right and then just do your best to draw a straight line. So I'm literally counting up 2, 1 to the right, up 2, 1 to the right, or I could go down 2 and 1 to the left, down 2, 1 to the left. I now can see I've got some nice, I'll make them darker for you. I've got some nice points. Draw a line through them. Your line that you draw should go through, if it applies, both intersects. So your X and Y intercept, that's how you, like how large it should be, and you should have arrows on it. The next form they give us is in what form? So B is in what form of the equation? Good, slope point form. So with slope point form, we have the same slope. Remember, if this is a plus sign, that means our point is actually at -1 and +2. The negative symbol is like in the set general formula. So I have a data point at -1 on my x-axis and +2. So I have a point right here that I know exists. Same slope of 2. So I'm going to count up 2, 1 to the right, up 2, 1 to the right, up 2, 1 to the right. This is the exact same graph that we did on the first one, but just a different way of like starting it out. Down 2, 1 to the left. So I have some points. I'm going to connect them and draw a straight line. Yes. So this last one's a little bit annoying because of those specific questions. So it's in general form. General form, you can never graph directly from general form. They specified in the question that we're not allowed to alter the form of the equation. Realistically, I'm not going to give you general with that like caveat that you can't alter the form, because to me, if you're altering it to graph it, you're still able to graph it. But let's like play the game of your workbook. In order to figure out this one, then you're going to use your X and Y intercepts then to base your graph from those 2 points. So how do I find, and plus this is just really good review for us, how do I find where my x-intercept is? What is common about every x-intercept? Shut up. Good, they have a y of 0. So I can plug in 0 for y and solve for our x. So in this one, I have 2x minus 0 plus 4 equals 0, so that's 2x plus 4 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So 2x equals -4. Divide by 2, so then x is equal to -2. So I know I have a point at -2 and 0. I have not altered the form of my equation. I've just utilized my equation to find my intercept. The same knowledge or same property can be used for our y-intercept. But this time I'm going to plug 0 in for x and get our second point. So now I'm going to have 2 times 0 minus y plus 4. So -y plus 4 equals 0. I can add y to both sides. So then 4's and y's look a lot alike. So I know I have a point at 4 and 0. I have 2 points. We can connect those two to the best of your abilities. So this next one, we're matching these equations to the graphs. I want to show you some like strategies for questions like these on any like standardized testing. So like the diploma, or like they do have released things for teachers to access. They love these types of questions. First off, which one of A, B, C, and D is a negative graph? Like a negative slope? C and A are negative. You're going down the hill while you're skiing and you're terrified, versus going up the chairlift, you're still excited for your ski trip. So those two are positive, the other two are negative. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach these questions. So let's start with the easier ones first. So equation 2 is already in slope-intercept form. We can tell right away that it has a negative slope of 2. So I just have to look at A and C now and see which one's a negative slope of 2. 2 is a whole number, so likely it's going to be our steeper graph, right? Versus a fractional slope will be a shallower slope. So let's look on this one and count it out. So I have a y-intercept at 3. If I go 1, 2, 3 down, sorry, we're going to go 4 down. I can go 2 to the right then. So that would have been -4, 2. -4 divided by 2 gives us a slope of -2. So from that, I already can tell equation 2 would be graph A. Equation 3 is in slope point form, so also a more helpful form. It tells us we have a negative slope of 1/2. So logically, it should just be C. That's the only negative sloped graph we have left. Let's check our points that it gives us. So we know we have a point at -4 and -1, because if those are plus signs, that means before it was like minusing a negative. So in theory, we should have a point at -4 and -1. So let's check. Right there, there's a point, and it has a negative slope. So equation 3 is graph C. If you want to count it out, you totally can. I go down 1, run 2. So my slope here is also -1/2. So equation 1 and equation 4 are both in general form. That's kind of sucky. General form, super useless. So let's start by converting the form. If I look at equation 1, I'm just going to rewrite it. If I add y to both sides, I now have it in mx plus b. So now I can tell I need to find an intercept at 3 and a slope of 2. So both of these have intercepts at 3, I believe, but I would argue that they look like they're slightly off. Really messed me up the first time I looked at this. I think it just printed a little bit funny. Likely it's graph D, right? It's a sharper slope. Let's count to make sure we have a slope of 2 here. So pick 2 points that are legitimate points. So if I count here and here, I'm going to run 2, rise 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it over here. So 4 over 2 divides to give us 2. So that means equation 1 is represented on graph D. Equation 4, therefore, has to be graph B. Let's go through the conversion just so we have that practice. This one's slightly more difficult because y has a coefficient on it. So I'm going to keep y positive because I think that's easier. So I'm going to add x to both sides and add 6 to both sides. So then I get 2y is equal to x plus 6. Divide everything by 2. So then y is equal to 1/2 x plus 3. So like we already pointed out, graph B does have a y-intercept at 3. So that's good. And if you count it out, we'll see we have a slope of positive 1/2. Go ahead, Charlotte. I wouldn't. I would actually count it out. That's like an easy place for you to make a mistake. And like you, in theory, yes, it would help guide you, but it's so easy to make little mistakes. I just wouldn't. Okay, then that's it. So then the next example is using technology, and it's basically just our previous unit. So I'm not going to go over that. Our next unit comes into play of more of those things anyways. And you don't get a graphing calculator for your test. I'm not going to assess you on those kind of things. The practice questions for today. So numbers 4 and 5, they are a little bit bigger of questions in some ways. Once you're done 4 and 5, you could do the practice test, or I have review booklets for you. So you could start studying.